Hey everybody. I'm gonna try to see if I can do this without waking up my babies. You guys know I'm in my bathroom and that's a risky place for me to make a video, but I'm gonna try. It's looking like the quality is not so great on this, so if not, I guess we'll try again. Anyway, today I wanted to talk about the power of one person to make a difference in your homes. The reason that I wanted to talk about this video is because I was just thinking, like, I remember what things were like before I started, like, my Fly Lady system and things like that. I felt like I was, like, doing the most and trying my best to, like, feel like I was managing the house well and making sure that I'm doing, what I'm supposed to be doing. And I just felt at the time like I'm giving so much to this homekeeping thing, and if if I have to do more, like I'm just not sure how much more I can give. And then, that was very like overwhelming for me. And it made me feel like kind of defeated a little bit because I'm just like I literally feel like I'm giving so much and there's just not much more I can do about it. And then I started my Fly Lady system, and it was just so cool to see how, before I felt like defeated by what I was trying to do, and I felt like I was giving my best. And to go from feeling like that to feeling like, wow, like I can do this, like I can make a difference. And that was like a huge confidence booster for me. And so I know about my own personal story and how that works. And I know that, for me, I really have the opportunity to see the influence that I had in just making the changes around my home that I wanted to see. But what's even cooler is to see the people who I get to help, with my channel and things like that. Like when I did the peaceful homekeeping system, it was so cool to see the testimonials and to see the before and afters and to see the screenshots and, people finally building that confidence in themselves and making the changes in their home that they wanted to see, realizing that it wasn't as tough or as overwhelming as they thought it was going to be. And just seeing just the comments, even now, like several weeks after the fact, I still get DMs, I still get messages of people, finally feeling that confidence and, just realizing that with a little tweak in their strategy, just simple things, that they have the power to just transform and see things go in a different direction in their home in a way, before they weren't quite sure how to do that. And so, and now you guys know that I am working through the beta version of the Peaceful Homekeeping group. And just even there, like the whole energy in that group, which I'm super excited to open it up. I know your kid's knocking on the bathroom door, mommy. Girl, I'm over here sweating. I'm like, girl, just don't let anybody cry. Don't let anybody knock on this door because my kids will do it. But anyway, yeah, the whole energy in that group is just really cool right now as, we're all just trying to be accountable and show up and do what we need to do. And it's just so cool to see the changes and the transformation. And so, like I said, it was cool to see my own story, but I think it's just even cooler to see, like, my people, my tribe, to see you guys have wins and to see you guys get the transformations as well, and to see you guys um, feeling that confidence of feeling like, okay, like, I believe that I have what it takes to do what I need to do and to make the changes here that I want to make. So that's really cool. And so I want to talk about what are the three things that are required. I'm sure there's more, but for the sake of making a video, let's just keep it down to three. The three things that I feel like are required if you want to kind of take that leadership in your home and you want to see the changes. Hey Isabel, hey Judy, hey Portia. If you want to see those changes in your home and you finally want to see like things turn around, like what is required for you to be the one to create that influence in your home, because once you do, it's just like a beautiful thing to just see the changes and things being made. And what's required in order for you to make that happen in your life. And so number one, I'm going to talk about three things. The first thing that's required is you have to have a willingness to show up. And by that I mean, I feel like one thing that people who struggle with perfectionism struggle with is talking themselves out of doing stuff that they know that they should be doing. Um, and by that, I mean, for me, the biggest thing that I used to struggle with is saying that, oh, I know I need to do this, but I don't have time. I don't have time to do this right now. I don't have time. And so, for those of you that are new to my channel, like when I'm talking about perfectionism, I just want to be very clear what I'm talking about because sometimes people, when they hear perfectionism, they think about like, oh, everything has to be just right, everything has to be just perfect. And yes, I feel like there's that kind of perfectionism, but then there's the kind of perfectionism of just like, I feel like there's the kind of perfectionism of just like beating yourself up for like not accomplishing the goals that you want to reach. Or sometimes there's even the perfectionism that comes with having goals in your head that like are way higher than they have to be. You just arbitrarily threw a standard up there, and then like that standard seems so high that you like shut yourself down and you don't even try because you don't feel like you can reach that standard. So when I'm talking about perfectionism on my channel, I'm talking about that kind of perfectionism, the perfectionism that shuts people down, that makes people feel like crippled because that standard in their head about what they should be accomplishing is so high. And so, with that being said, like my thing in my head that I used to struggle with was I don't have time. So, for example, if I needed to, I don't know, start out something, mop a floor or declutter a closet. I used to be like, well, I don't have time to do it right now. So I'm just going to go do the things that are important. And then later I will come and make time. And so one thing that I love about the Fly Lady system is that the way that she sets her system up is she makes time not an issue for you. You got 10 minutes, you have, 10 minutes. You can mop your whole house in 10 minutes. You can do a decluttering project and make some progress on it in 10 to 15 minutes. So it's just like finding ways to stop talking yourself out of what needs to be done. You can't comment, like, I can see your comment. So I don't know if there might be something wrong with my internet. Like let me know if this video is coming across clearly because even on my side it looks like there's a delay. And if it's not, I can always, if it's not clear, I can come back and try again later or go upstairs. But anyway, yeah, finding ways to challenge those thoughts in your head that tell you that now is not the time to show up, or that tell you that that try to talk you out of doing the things that you know that need to be done. And so for me, like I remember like a big thing that I used to kind of talk myself out of, even once I got on the Fly Lady system, is like mopping. I feel like out of the weekly home blessing, mopping is the thing that I have the hardest time with because it takes a lot of energy. And so for in my mind, when I know that it's something that I need to do, I could easily be like, well, I don't have time to do it right now. And I had to get to the point where I like challenge myself. Anytime that thought comes to my head that I don't have time to do it right now, I don't just let that thought sit there and just be like, okay, and walk away, because now I know that that's a huge sign of perfectionism. Now it's to the point where I'm like, well, why are you saying that? Like, I feel bad for the people in my group, like, because anytime that comes up, I'm like, let's dissect that a little more, because sometimes I feel like I don't have time is such a loaded phrase. And sometimes it can literally mean I don't have time. But I feel like if it's a chronic statement that you say over and over and over again, what it could actually mean is I don't have time to do it well. And those are like two different issues. I don't have time and I don't have time to do it well. And it's kind of like I had to get to the point where I'm just like, well, what exactly do I feel like is the standard here? Like I just have to mop. And what I realized over time is that when I say, I'm just using mopping as an example, the first thing that comes to my mind is, well, you have to pull out all the chairs, you have to prep the floor, you have to do this, you have to do this, and there's this whole laundry list of stuff in my head that I feel like I need to do. And what I have to do is just get to the point where I'm like, no, you don't. Like, I know that that's the traditional way and that there's a traditional way to do it. But for this weekly home blessing, where I'm supposed to show up and do my bag cleaning still blesses your home. No, I don't. I don't have to do any of that. And so I've gotten to the point where I've just slashed out as many steps as possible because I have to get myself to show up. If I want to see results, I have to get myself to show up on my system as often as possible. And so even like with decluttering, if I know I have a decluttering project and my brain is like, oh, you don't have time, that's too much to do right now. And I'm like, exactly what is the standard here that I feel like I have to reach? And then I have to tell myself, no, like all I have to do is work on it, make it better for 15 minutes, and then I leave. So I make sure to really challenge myself, and I try not to talk myself out of showing up for my systems. And I try not to let those thoughts of it's too much, it's too overwhelming, it's gonna take too much time. I try not to let those thoughts just run freely without being challenged. And so, whatever it takes for you to get yourself to show up and to stop talking yourself out of doing stuff that I probably don't want to do. Another example would be like I talk about this toilet and this toilet bowl scrubber all the time. I used to talk myself out of like cleaning the toilet because I had a product way on the other side of the house and I'm like, I don't have time to go get that. Well, you want to know what made all those voices be quiet? Now I have like the toilet bowl holder with the brush in there. So anytime I see that the toilet needs to be handled, I don't talk myself out of it because I make it so easy for me to clean it. All I have to do is whip the wand out, swish and swipe and go. I know y'all see my bottle of Dawn Power Wash right there. I used to talk myself out of cleaning the shower all the time, and now I don't because it's right there. It's so easy for me to use that to squirt down a shower wall and to handle it whenever I see a problem. So just thinking of what are the obstacles? What is the conversation going on in my head that's telling me that now is not a good time or that's encouraging me not to show up, and being willing to challenge those thoughts so that you can get yourself to show up and so that you can just be like, no, that's, that standard in my head is not real. Like, I don't have to stick with that if I don't want to, and especially if it's keeping me from not making progress. And how about I just do what I can, and then I will, do what I can later, do the rest of it later. And I feel like another issue that is related to that I'm going to touch on before I move on to the next point is even like decluttering. I know that that's huge for some people, and those decisions, having to make those decisions, can lead people to talking themselves out of doing it because making those decisions and dealing with the consequences of those decisions just feels too overwhelming. But just getting to the point where you're just like, yeah, it's uncomfortable for me to let go of these items that look like they're in perfect condition, and just being willing to stand in that discomfort and not talk yourself out of making those decisions because you know that on the other side of it is the space and the freedom that you need to be able to arrange your home and do the things that you want to do. So not talking yourself out of what you know is the right thing, what is on your heart as the right thing, and really challenging those thoughts. Anything that comes up that tells you, like, no, don't do it, now it's not the right time, we'll do it later. Really? Maybe how about I just really dissect that a little bit and be sure that that's not a loaded statement. And if I really don't have time, I'm only one person. There's only 24 hours in a day. But if it's a chronic thing, then it may be an issue of perfectionism, and there may be some standards that I need to challenge and allow and give myself permission to step over so that I can show up and be consistent. So that's number one. Let me go back and read the comments. Hey Judy, you're perfectly clear. Okay, cool. I can totally relate to what you're saying. That's so cool. Out of sight, out of mind. Is your family screaming death? Is your house going through a hurricane? No, you could clean for 5 minutes. House or hours. Okay, I see. Okay, yeah, no, I'm just like, like the other day, I did this weekly home blessing, and it was probably the worst weekly home blessing that I've ever done. I did it on Sunday, and it was because I didn't have like a whole hour to do it. I had a Zoom call for my group that I needed to be on, and I was like getting ready to be like, well, I guess you can't do your weekly home blessing today. You don't have enough time. And I'm like, girl, like if you don't just knock this out and show up as much as you can and do as much as you can in these 40 minutes, like I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like, because I'm like, sometimes those thoughts can come so quickly, like, oh, I need to have all of this time to do this. Well, no, you don't. You can make progress on it. Show up and do a little bit. It's, for me, it's better to get started and to not do as much as I thought than to not show up at all. And that's what I did. And it was like the worst weekly home blessing. Like, but at least I tried, and if anything bothers me that much, I can always go back and touch up the areas that I missed, and next week is a new week. So just really giving yourself permission to just use what you have. Like, it doesn't always have to be perfect. Shower to clean while you shower. Yep, exactly. Yep, you see my little Dawn Power Wash. Okay, so we're talking about what is required to really be able to become that person in your home that really starts to shift things and to really just tap into the power that you have to just make a difference in kind of like the way your home is flowing and stuff like that with the homekeeping, home management, things like that. So we talked about you have to be able to challenge your thoughts and stop talking yourself out of doing the things that you know are required. The second thing is, you guys, I feel like this is coming. It's consistency. I feel like the way that the system is set up, it's designed to be simple, but sometimes it's not easy to do the simple things when you have to do them over and over and over and over and over again. But that's what I feel like, to me, that's the hardest part of the system, is learning to be consistent. Because even though these routines only take 10 to 15 minutes each, some days you're going to wake up and you're just not going to feel like doing it. Or yeah, that's pretty much the biggest thing. You're just gonna wake up, you're not gonna feel like doing it. Maybe you had a rough day. Like, I had a rough day yesterday and I did not feel like doing my evening routine. But it makes a difference. Like, the more often that you can show up, the more often that you can be consistent. Like, that's what's required. Because it's like, I just noticed when I stop being consistent, that's when it feels like things are starting to build back up on me. That's when it feels like we're creeping in the wrong direction. And like I said, with that being said, you don't have to be perfect. For me, I feel like the most important thing that I have to be consistent on is that routine, that morning and evening routine. If I have to drop every other pillar of my system for a moment in order for me to, like, kind of get my bearings, that's fine. But as long as I'm consistent on that morning and evening routine, I might not be moving forward, but at least I'm not moving backwards. And so it's important that you learn how to be consistent, because I feel like consistency is really just learning how to master yourself and learning how to overcome yourself on those days where you don't really feel like showing up, or you don't really feel like doing it. And so, I always talk about on this channel, what does it for you? What helps you show up and be consistent when, you may not feel like it, or you may not be in the mood to do that? And so for me, some areas that I would look at is maybe timing. Am I trying to do this routine in the best part of the day? Or am I waiting for my energy to be drained? And then, of course, you don't want to show up when you don't have any energy. So how can you arrange your day to increase the likelihood that you're going to show up and do what you need to do? Another thing that can help with consistency is, how do you make this activity, fun? For me, I'm like, I don't think I'll ever call cleaning fun. Y'all know I don't like cleaning. But what are things that you can incorporate or do to make it more interesting for you to do? And for me, that's my music, that's my podcast. That gets me every time. That really helps me show up when I don't feel like it. And then another thing that's super important is, how do you make it feel easy? Sometimes it's really hard to be consistent when it feels like you have to climb a mountain just to be productive or to get something done. But as I mentioned, the beauty of having routines that are 10 or 15 minutes long is that it doesn't feel like you're climbing over a mountain. It feels like you're going over a hill. And when it feels like you have to just go over a hill, you're more likely to show up than when it feels like you have to do all this extreme stuff. So if you can, it's cool to go up mountains and to be extreme and to do all that. But if you can be extreme and you only show up for one day, then there's no momentum in that. There's no building up. There's no power in that. For me, I'm to the point where I'd rather jump over a lot of little tiny hills and be consistent at that, rather than trying to feel this pressure to feel like I have to do all the things and do it all at once, and then I can't be consistent. So just really thinking about how to build your consistency game up. What do you need to put in place to be able to do that? And I feel like I said, it's an exercise on self-awareness, and it's an exercise on just learning about yourself, learning more about yourself and what it takes for you to show up. Okay, so we're talking about the things that are required to just really tap into the potential and the power that you have to just make a difference in your home and start to see things going in the direction that you want it to go. And so far, we have talked about your willingness to show up. And I feel like that is kind of related to consistency, but it's a little different. I think one kind of handles perfectionism, while the other inconsistency is just about learning about yourself and what it takes for you to get moving when you don't feel like it. And the last thing is being strategic about what you're doing. I really tried to think of a clear definition to describe this, and I couldn't. But what I can share is examples of when I thought I was really doing the most. I thought I was kicking butt, but I wasn't strategic. And I can talk about how, just getting up and just taking action without really looking at the bigger picture how that ended up biting me in the butt. So I listed several examples, and hopefully through these examples, you guys can kind of feel what I'm talking about when I'm saying just finding ways to be strategic with your time and with your energy. So one thing that I used to struggle with was literally just doing the first thing that caught my eye. Because, like, I could walk into a room and be like, oh my gosh, this house is a mess. I need to clean it up. And I could literally just do the first thing that kind of came to my eye without looking at the bigger picture. And sometimes, for example, like when we used to have like a lot of toy clutter, I just wanted to see that toy clutter picked up for the sake of my mental well-being, just to be like, okay, at least I did something, the place is picked up, or just any type of clutter. And what I realized is that for me, it just felt like there was an imbalance there. It felt like I was always picking up clutter, picking up, stuff, but I never really had time to like declutter or organize. And if I can go back, I would talk to myself like, girl, if you would just take like a small portion of that time that you're using to constantly pick up the same stuff over and over again and take just a little portion of that time to go over here and work on a decluttering project, like you're actually going to reduce the amount of cleaning that you have to do overall by making space in your drawers and finding long-term permanent storage solutions. And for some reason, my brain did not see it like that before Flight Lady. Like I always felt like, first let me get the house together. Let me make everything visually appealing first. And then once everything is like cool over here, then I'll go work on those decluttering projects. And as you guys can imagine, that time never came. Like that time to do decluttering projects and to get everything done never came. Well, okay, that's a lie. Every once in a while it would come, but like it didn't come often enough for me to handle the problem. So if I would have been strategic, instead of picking up the same thing that I know, I'm gonna pick those toys up and 10 minutes later they're gonna be back on the ground. If I would have taken that time instead to be like, okay, how can I create some solutions here? How can I, organize this place so that it doesn't get out of control so fast, or so that we have places to like organize this and arrange that. I feel like if I would have had that mindset, it would have saved me a lot of problems. And then on the opposite, like I feel like having a lack of strategy really represents not being balanced. There would be days that day would finally come where I could work on a decluttering project, and so I felt like I had to spend my whole day like decluttering, organizing, burning myself out, only for me to not have energy then to do the stuff to clean up the messes that come quickly, like dishes, like staying on top of that laundry, like picking up the clutter. And so it's like I felt like I was always unbalanced, if you will. And so for me, that's what happened when I didn't have a strategy. Like I was either like I was giving my attention too much to one thing without juggling or balancing the other, if that makes sense. And so one thing that I think is really cool about the Fly Lady system is that I feel like her system has really encouraged me to find balance and to have balance. And that really feels good to me because I feel like, no, I don't do the first thing that catches my eyes. Like I have a plan and I see the bigger picture, and like all the pieces of the plan make sense to me and they just all work well together. And so it's like I make sure that every once in a while, yes, I have to deal with the hamster wheel. Yes, I have to deal with the continual flow of dishes, laundry, and clutter and stuff like that. I have to deal with it. And I feel like the way we deal with it for me is not overwhelming. But every once in a while, I get an opportunity to step off the rat race, get off the hamster wheel, and go work on some projects that are meaningful and that are helpful and that will possibly make this hamster wheel feel less tiresome, if that makes sense. I know that metaphor is out there, but so to me, it really has given me balance. And so if I walk into a room and I see clutter and toys and stuff like that on the floor, like I have to think like, am I doing the right thing at the right time? Is this the right time to pick this up? And sometimes the answer is yes, and sometimes the answer is no. Like right now is my time to go work on a decluttering project. I'm gonna let those toys. I'm gonna tolerate this mess for another hour. I'm gonna tolerate this and let this sit here and go put my energy here on making long-term, storage solutions and organizing and decluttering so that these messes don't get a chance to take over as quickly as they do now. Let's see, I think I had some other examples. Another example of how I wasn't being strategic before I got on my system would be just like little things. Like you guys know that with my laundry routine, I just make sure to throw in a load every morning And I try to make sure that that load is swapped and folded by the end of the day. But sometimes it wouldn't even like dawn on me that like, girl, you could like start working on this laundry before it explodes, like, you know. And if I would have had strategy, I would have been thinking about like, okay, this is something, it's continual, it's always coming, like it grows really fast. How about we create a system and a strategy to put this on autopilot? So literally all you have to do is think about it for a few minutes a day. But I didn't think about it that way. Instead, I just allowed it to accumulate. And then once it felt out of control, then I'm like, okay, now I need to do laundry. Today's laundry day. And for me, that just, it didn't really work out as well. And so for me, I'm just like, it's really cool now that I have a plan and a strategy around laundry that feels like literally, I probably think about my laundry about 6 minutes every day. And it is a 6 minutes well spent to not see that laundry piled up on my tables, piled up on my floor, piled up on our beds, and things like that. And so it's just really cool to think about how to put that on autopilot. So I think about it very little on a daily basis, but not thinking about it was very problematic for me and created a lot of work that I didn't really want to do. So it's just cool to have a system that encourages me to look at the bigger picture, and it helps me just like I said, just look at the bigger picture. I feel like, and so tasks that I wouldn't normally do, now it's kind of like embedded into the system. So it just helps me be able to just manage things a little better, and instead of feeling like I'm just exhausting my energy trying to do all the things, I know that when I show up to do each pillar and each component of the system, that there's a purpose there, and that it's just contributing to my bigger goal. So um, yeah, so it's just really, for me, it's about focusing, seeing the bigger picture, focusing on the right things at the right time. And when you do that, for me, that's when I just felt like I began to see things change. And so, and it was just crazy because to me, it didn't require as much force and as much effort as I thought it was going to be. And to me, I still feel like my system is less work than what I was doing before. It is significantly less work than when I was like doing the binge and burn cycle and all that stuff. And so that's just goes to show you what overcoming perfectionism can do for you, some consistency and some good strategy, what that can do for you. And you can really, like I said, begin to see those changes. And it may not be as hard as you think that it's going to be. So anyway, before I go, I think I keep forgetting to introduce myself in these videos. My name's LaDay, the creator of this channel, Love Always LaDay. And my goal is just to share my story, my Fly Lady journey, and just how that has really just transformed my home and also my attitude with myself and my expectations of myself. And I just want to share what I'm learning in the hopes that it can help other moms feel like more confident home managers as well. So that's a little bit about me. And I'm going to link some information down below for anybody who's interested in getting started. I kind of do a modified version of the Fly Lady system, and I also have like different ways of like explaining it and kind of making the pillars of the system a little easier for people to understand. So if you're interested in that, I'm going to link some information down below, and it's called the Peaceful Homekeeping Challenge, and it'll in 8 weeks get you set up on your system. You'll get motivational emails and all that stuff, free printable stuff like that, resources that will help you on your journey if you feel like that's something that you're interested in and that's something that you want to do. So I'll link all of that down below for anybody who's interested. So this is live, so I'm going to take a moment to jump back in the comments. Hey, Omaris! I was the same way. It was hard to see past the mess. Work smarter, not harder. Absolutely. Yes, that's like the whole theme of this, right? Hey, Mary. Rachel, it's about balance. Sometimes it's hard for me to walk away from a mess, like toys on the floor or a hot spot, to deal with a bigger project. Yeah. And for me, it's just crazy because it's cool that you can acknowledge that, because it goes back to point number one. Don't talk yourself out of it, which I don't know. Rachel, I don't know your background, so I don't know if you're doing that or not. But it's kind of like, if you know what you need to do, don't talk yourself out of it. But I think for me, like, it didn't even dawn on me, like, you could like leave those toys right there for like 15 minutes and go, declutter that pantry. Like, it didn't even like dawn on me that that was an option. And so now reflecting back and thinking back on it, I'm just like, like, I could have just made my life so much easier. Like, it instead of picking those up, you could maybe like sit down and declutter them with the kids and maybe find some storage solutions so that they won't dump their toys, everywhere so quickly. It just didn't even like dawn on me that that was an option. And like I said, thinking back, I'm like, girl, why didn't you think about that? Like, I'm the same way with laundry and the other things on autopilot. The system makes it easier to keep up. Absolutely. Like, it truly does. And you know, like I just can't describe like how easy it feels when you get stuff on autopilot. I was listening to this podcast yesterday and it was just kind of like describing how like your routines can just, it literally feels like there's activity going on in the background at all times, but because you've systemized it and you've kind of created a routine, like it doesn't require your attention so much. But before I had my laundry system together, I felt like I was always thinking about laundry. Either it was somewhere it wasn't supposed to be, somebody didn't have what they needed for school, or I don't know, like, it was overloaded pile of dirty clothes. Like I felt like I was always thinking about it. And now that I have like this little simple system, y'all, literally a minute in the morning, a minute to swap at lunch, to swap during lunchtime, and maybe 5 minutes because y'all know I work in small loads and I sort by location. And it maybe takes 5 minutes to put that laundry away with the way that I do it. So I'm like, I probably think about laundry 5 to 6, maybe 7 minutes a day. And it's kind of like, that's the beauty of putting stuff on autopilot. Like, that something's going on, but it very much feels like it's in the background and it's not like the forefront of my attention all the time. And that's just been like a blessing because laundry was by far like the biggest cleaning obstacle for me with trying to do laundry after all 6 of us. And two of the people in this house are toddlers. So y'all know how toddlers go through clothes, babies and toddlers. And that was like my biggest challenge. So it's just so cool to feel like I finally like conquered that, And so definitely building a system around it has helped so much. I love that you mentioned the pantry. That is what I need to deal with. You can do it, Rachel. Yeah. I think I even have a video in here when I did my pantry, and I tried to follow I just worked on my kitchen for I usually do my zone cleaning personally 3 days a week, and I described that process, and I feel like I accomplished so much in those 3 days. It was just incredible because I'm just before I could easily just be in there for hours and doing all the things and feeling tired and burned out. But I just was like, girl, you get 15 minutes and you get it for 3 days. I did the best that I could and I really was happy with the transformation. But obviously you can't, y'all know, on social media, people have really cool before and afters. And for me, it wasn't like that, but I really had to learn to let that go because I feel like having these expectations of what the transformation is supposed to be that, I don't want to say discourage me, but it goes back to the perfectionism. When you feel like the standards are too high and you can talk yourself out of it, or you can shut yourself down because you're like, well, I have to do it like this, and I'm nowhere near that, and you can really overwhelm yourself. And I really had to just scale down my expectations and be like, girl, listen here, you got 15 minutes, do the best you can. And you can always come back next month, and I've just been happy with the results that I've been able to get. To me, it's just far more productive to show up, do a crappy job, not get as far as I wanted to go, and just keep doing a lot of that. And eventually it takes me to where I want to go. So it's just been a really cool experience to see so many of the so many of the closets and pantries and drawers and all that stuff just slowly change over time. Now, speaking of drawers, are my drawers looking great now? No, because I have toddlers who like to come through my stuff and pull everything out. But it's just cool to know that I have what it takes to make it right and to fix it and to make it look like I want to. Whereas before, I would have made it like a grand project in my head. I probably would have procrastinated. I would have delayed and be like, I don't have time to do that. Now I know the power of 15 minutes because of this, experience on my journey. I'm consistent with home blessing, and my home is so clean. Then I do the zones whenever I feel like it. Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm like, this system is a tool. It's a tool. So if you're happy with the way things are going, and as I'm reading this, Mary, I'm not getting the full context. So I don't know if you're saying this like I'm mad at myself for not doing zone cleaning, or if you're like, girl, I'm just zone cleaning when I want, and you're empowered by that. But just in case you're beating yourself up, I just want to encourage you to use it as a tool. Use it as a tool. When you feel like you need that zone cleaning, show up to your zone cleaning. If you feel like you're in a stage where like you don't need it as much, girl, do you. Like that's where I am right now. I'm like, do what works for you. So I hope that when you say that, you feel empowered by that. And if you do feel, if on the other hand you feel like there's stuff that you want to see changed, then point number one, don't talk yourself out of it. Even if you need to change it from 15 minutes, girl, to 10 minutes. Keep talking to yourself and rationalizing in your brain, and keep talking back to that voice that tells you now is not the time. So it just depends where you are in your journey. If you're good, embrace it. I ain't showed up for zone cleaning this week. I'm gonna embrace it. If you don't feel like you're good, you feel like you want to make changes, then really challenge that voice and negotiate until you find a compromise or a situation where you feel like, okay, literally it's so easy, I can't talk myself out of it. So even if that means going from doing 15 minutes of zone cleaning to be like, girl, I got 10. Just go do something about it, Stop talking yourself out of it. So it depends where you are. Maris, I hated laundry too. I tried the Fly Lady before, but I didn't get a handle on it until I found you. Yay! I don't know why. I think it's because you simplified the dailies to just 3 things. Yay! Girl, that's what I'm all about here. I'm like, simple. And also a big piece of it for me is just, I feel like the Fly Lady system has a lot to do with habit formation. And I feel like sometimes it's difficult for for anybody really, to go from like 0 to 100, And I feel like that's what a lot of people try to do when they do the Fly Lady system. They try to like take the whole thing, and it can be overwhelming. I feel like if you come from a background where you're used to like routines and habits, and like you just been doing this your whole life, then maybe it is easy to adapt, and to start the routines and to go down the list. It's easy. But for somebody like me who I don't like lists, I feel like I rejected routines too hard for a long time, and I just didn't feel like I came from a background where maintenance was encouraged. It was always like bench clean on the weekends. I felt like I just needed a different starting point. I'm like, okay, like I want to be successful on this, but this is a lot for me right now. That's not to say that I can't get there in the future, but I need to like have some way to narrow this down, and let me just focus on like the essentials first. And then as I become more confident at this level, then I can continually level it up until I get to like the full version of the program. And so for me, I try to think about it as like, it's just the principles. Like that's what's the most important. It's the principles, habit formation, consistently showing up to this stuff, progress, not perfection. And so I'm like, if I could just extract the principles, but then maybe there's a different way to apply the principles. Like maybe there's a different way for me to do it and to show up, then like let me do that. And for me, it just is worked out really well. So it's just been really cool, and I encourage you to do the same. Maybe even my way doesn't fit your life, or you're trying to get my way and it doesn't quite align, and you feel like there's something wrong or it's not quite a fit. Instead of like chunking the whole system, it's like the principles work. It's the principles. So however you need to arrange the principles into your life, like whatever that looks like for your life, like give yourself permission to do that, because that's certainly what I did. And so, like I said, progress, not perfection. How do you get yourself to show up when you don't feel like it? How do you take something like mopping and break it down into such a small, bite-sized task that you're like, literally, I can't even put this off. It's easier for me to do the mopping than to skip it. It's easier for me to take this Dawn power wash and clean the shower for me to skip it. Like, how do you set yourself up like that and break the task down so small that you can stop talking yourself out of it? Maybe instead of doing, several minutes, how short can I make this so my brain stops talking me out of this? Also, how do I get myself to be consistent? For Fly Lady, I feel like that's her big emphasis on wearing her shoes. I feel like I don't know Marla. I don't know her. So I don't know if this is true, but I can only just assume that that was her big consistency piece. Like, let me support my feet. Let me put something on my feet that gets me in the mindset that it's time to get to work. Let me make it hard for myself not to get in the bed. So how do I make myself consistent? So for Marla, that's her shoes. What is it for you? For me, it's my headphones. It's my podcast. It's my music. So finding like what that is for you. And then number 3, having a strategy. So your strategy doesn't have to be the same as mine. It doesn't have to be the same as Fly Lady, but really allowing yourself to build like a well-rounded program and using the principles and like arranging them however you need to that fits your life. And I feel like, if as long as the principles are intact, however you decide to build the system, I feel like it can work, and I think there's just room for creativity there because the principles are solid. They're very solid. Okay, Mary says, I'm happy because it's not overwhelming. Exactly. I feel like I had the same experience. I had to take the time to clean my living room window today. And it's so nice to take the time to do those special things when in that zone and get those things, random things shiny. Girl, it's so true. Is there something about doing those small little details, those small little touches that feels like it uplifts me? Girl, I never thought that I would be somebody who cares about like a shiny window or a shiny mirror or anything like that. But I remember doing my first zone cleaning, like my first week of zone cleaning. Okay, number 1, I remember before I started zone cleaning, I had like this mirror, like just like the smallest things. This is how perfectionism was trying to get you. I had this mirror in my bathroom sitting right here. You guys have probably seen it in my cleaning videos. And I just remember walking past it and it being smudged like all the time. And it was just getting on my nerves. But me overcoming perfection, not realizing I was a perfectionist, in my head, I had this grand thing that needed to be done in order for me just to clean this little mirror. Like, I guess in my mind, I couldn't just clean the mirror. I need to clean all the mirrors. I don't have time for that. So I kept talking myself out of it. And then even like on my little my light switch plates, like seeing that stuff. And in my mind, there's like this big task that needs to be, I need to clean all the switch plates. Like, it wasn't just like, just go do that one thing. It takes 2 minutes. Like, it wasn't that at all. So that's how perfectionism can get into you. And I just remember like having a time when I first did my first round of zone cleaning. Literally, I felt like I was like this blown up, tight, compressed balloon. And every little smudge I cleared off. Oh, I felt like I could just breathe a little bit better. I would go clean another smudge. I was just like, oh my gosh. By the time I was done with that weekly, blessed it, girl. It was zone cleaning. By the time I was done with that zone cleaning and I cleaned my little light switches, got all the smudge off my mirror, I felt like a new woman. And it's just crazy. I never would have thought that something that small can make me feel better. And it does. Like, it really makes you feel a little more pulled together. When you see the stuff, like you see the smudges and then you don't see them anymore. And for me, like, that was also another type of cleaning that I just wasn't getting to because I was so consumed with like daily clutter. So it's just nice to like not have to be consumed by the normal stuff, the dishes, the laundry, the toys. Like, it was so nice to like go clean other stuff and do what in my mind, like, oh, this is what everybody else is doing in their homes. And it was just like a nice treat. So I'm just saying, I get what you're saying, girl. Like, it'd be the little things. It'd be the small things sometimes that could just be making your whole day and making you feel like your whole life is together. That's where I'm at. Just creating the habits. I'm still not showing up consistently for hotspots. Once I graduate from that, my next focus is weekly home blessing / basic weekly plan. Absolutely. I feel like that's one of the cool parts about the system. You just take what works for you, And I think I said this during the Peaceful Homekeeping Challenge a lot. I'm like, even if you don't implement all of it, literally implementing the routines, life-changing. And so just pick the parts that work the best for you. Because like I said, I feel like some people do get overwhelmed because they think they have to do it all. And it's like, you don't have to. Start with what will give you the most relief. And then once you get real good at those, maybe try a different pillar. And ultimately, maybe you will want to do them all. Obviously, the more you do, like, the more it kind of streamlines your home management stuff. But just do what you can do. And get really good and get really comfortable at that and really trust that, once those habits take place, this stuff will start to feel like it's on autopilot. And once you feel really good, like this feels like your new normal, then you kind of open yourself up to be able to grow and to level up a little more. And so that process happens and it takes time. And just know that whatever feels difficult today, if you're consistent, I can't talk for everybody, but according to most of the research on habits and my personal experience, it can feel like better over time. And then once it kind of feels like this is my new normal, they say it takes 21 days to build a habit, then maybe you just challenge yourself a little bit more. Hey, Mrs. Behavior. Hey. She always makes me laugh with this first lady thing. But anyway, I just wanted to come on here and just kind of share, because I've been feeling really inspired by just the testimonials that I have coming in and the ladies in my group, and I just feel like it's just all around good energy going on. And I just want to let you guys know that if you feel like sometimes the homekeeping, the home management, it just feels like a lot, I just want to let you know that you really do have a lot of power to make those changes and to make a difference in your home. And like I said, it really just comes down to three focuses. For the purpose of this video, I talked about three focuses that can help you with that transition to just feeling like you just have more of an influence and seeing things go the direction that you want to go. We talked about getting yourself to show up, overcoming perfectionism. Anytime you hear that voice in your head, I don't have time, I don't have time, I don't have time, making sure you challenge it. Is time really the issue, or do I just don't have time to do it well? Becoming consistent. What does it take for you to get yourself to show up when you don't feel like doing it? Number 3, having a system that promotes well-roundedness and balance strategy, and really thinking about like your approach to this and your strategy, instead of just kind of just doing whatever comes to you, like trying to think about the bigger picture. And I feel like if you have those 3 things, you will start to see changes and you will start to just be happier with the way things are going. I feel like those 3 things played a huge role in just kind of like, my success with the program. And so just wanted to share that with you guys today. If you guys would do me a favor, please like this video and rate out. It really helps my channel a lot, and I will be forever grateful. Thank you guys so much for being here, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.